Hello, I'm David Waumsley. In this video, I'm taking a look at plugin logic, which is a very simple but sadly forgotten performance plugin. In some ways, this is a follow-on from a video I did last week where I was taking a look at a similar plugin called Plugin Logic Filter, where I mentioned the plugin we're looking at today, Plugin Logic, and also one other which I've used for a number of years called Plugin Organizer. Now, these three plugins, although they work differently, do effectively the same job. They allow us on an individual page or post basis to deactivate or prevent from loading unneeded plugins for those pages and posts, helping with our speed. Now, after I did this video, I tried to implement this plugin on a news site, but I stumbled upon the problem which I mentioned when I was doing the video. This news site had a bunch of Ajax pages, so it had a bookings plugin in it which needed Ajax, so this wasn't the best match for it. So then I thought about going to Plugin Organizer, which is something I'm familiar with, and again this wasn't going to be the best for again a reason I mentioned in the last video is that there is a conflict if you're using this plugin with SEO Press, and it's an SEO Press issue with WooCommerce. So I thought this was a good opportunity to try out this plugin, which was recommended to me, but not so attractive because it appears to be abandoned. It's not been updated in 3 years, has very few active installations, although it does have a 5-star rating. And in fact, it has one more 5-star rating because I really like this plugin. It's so simple. I like the approach it takes to this issue. So secretly, I will say that I'm hoping that this video could reach out to the plugin author and encourage them to do an update, but I suspect that they may have left WordPress altogether. So my other secret hope is that maybe someone will see this video and see that this is a very simple plugin that could be forked and rebooted. So that's my hope with it. Now, I have also made this video because the plugin also doesn't have anything in the way of instructions. It does have some screenshots, and as it's so simple, you could probably work out most of what you need to do, but there were still a few forum questions there, some which weren't answered. So I decided to set up my own instructions on the blog post, which obviously I'll link below this video here to help anyone who wants to use this one. But first, maybe I'll just comment a bit on the risks. So as I mentioned in the last video, all of these three plugins carry quite a great risk if you don't know what you're doing with your plugins or how your plugins work, because you can deactivate things or not have them load when they really should be. And perhaps where you're breaking things is very subtle. So there is that risk. And then there is also the risk of a plugin that appears to have been abandoned. Now, I'm not too worried with that personally because I'm used to working with the Genesis framework, where it was quite common for authors to have very simple plugins that didn't need updating, and they just didn't bother to update the file in the repository to say that it was working with the current version. I'm not sure if this is similar to that. I did look at the code before I installed it, but you know, this is me, and me looking at code, well, just imagine a dog being taught algebra. It's probably the same kind of look. So, but I did work out that it did take care of one of my little bugbears, and that is I could see in there that it was instructions there to remove on deletion of this plugin anything that is stored in the database, which I really like. And this is one of the things that annoys me about a lot of plugins, that you just leave what they add there, and that's it. It's just more bloat in your database. So it does take care of that, which is a good sign for me. I also did test it on, as I'm recording this, what I think is the latest version of PHP, version 7.4, which is in release candidate. I don't know anything about security. It doesn't strike me as a high risk plugin. It's not on any vulnerability databases, but then that's very unlikely anyway because of the few active installs. All I can say is that the first comment on the plugin itself in the code, the first line is a security check. So perhaps that's a good sign that they do think about security, but whether that's relevant now, I don't know. So you will have to take your own risks. So let me just show you the setting up, and I'm not going to go through the blog post on this. I'll just show you this on a live site. So I set this up on what is Astra theme. They have their Astra sites where you can, with one click, install a whole site, and this one's got WooCommerce. So what I wanted to do was to see how I could kind of remove WooCommerce where I didn't need it, and I didn't want it on the home page, and I wanted to get some of the weight off the home page. And it seems to have worked. I don't know how well you can see this on the bottom here. I'm using a plugin that I did a video on called Usage DD. In the last video I was using Query Monitor. I use this one because it's simpler, maybe not exactly as reliable, but it does. This one does work when you're in your page builder view, which the other one doesn't. So that's why I quite like this one. And the queries that this was outputting with WooCommerce working on, and before I changed some of the other plugin settings, was I think 176 queries. So it's knocked off, what, 46 queries off the front here. It's definitely reduced the load that it takes. The time has speeded up somewhat for this. And I've done the same as well on some of the posts in the blog here. Then I've also removed WooCommerce. So on the normal pages, we'll get our little cart icon back. And for the rest of the pages, it will be working fine, but it's reduced it. I did have to, though, for this, I did have to go into my settings for WordPress and make sure that I got blog in there, which isn't by default for my blog. So I could take this section out separately. Okay, let me go into the back end of the site so I can show you the plugin. So the first tip really with this, if you're trying to search for it because it's not been updated, in the way that the repository search works, it seems to exclude things which haven't been updated. So if you're trying to install it from the back end of your site, go to the author search and search for Simon_H, all in lowercase, and you'll find it straight away, but not under plugin logic. So then install and activate that, and when you've done that, it's going to add this submenu plugin logic here to the plugin navigation, and you're going to see this screen. But by default, you're not going to see this column here, behavior on dashboard. If you want to see that, you'll need to go to screen options and tick it on here. But you'll only need this if you're considering not having plugins load on your admin pages. It says dashboard here, but really a better term would have been admin pages, because that's how it works. It's not just on the dashboard itself. So if you're not doing that, you don't really need to turn this on. Mostly all you're doing is adding in URLs or words that could be contained in a URL as your rules, and you've got the choice to have something active on or inactive on. So if you have it as inactive on, it's going to just not be active on that particular page and active on all of your other front-end pages. If you put it active on, then it's going to deactivate on all the other pages, but only be active on the pages that you've listed here. So let me just go down the bottom here, because this will make more sense, because I've got some actual URLs in here. So we're here with WooCommerce. I'm happy with it to be in the back end. I'm going to need that functionality. I wanted it just to be inactive on these pages and work on all of the other pages, because I've got, you know, more extra cart pages, and we've also got the logged in pages as well, so the account pages, that kind of thing. So what I've done, and perhaps the first tip, this is one of the first queries I saw come up. A couple of people have asked how to make it work on the home page, and I think the key thing is to make sure that you add in the trailing / here, because it's not there. If you just copy it from your site, it removes that at the root domain. So just add that back and things seem to work fine here. So I didn't want it to work on these pages. As I say, it works on words as well. So as long as you don't put the HTTP or HTTPS on at the front here, you could just use all of this. So this makes it very clear. It's all of the URLs that's going to contain this. So that removes it from all of my blog posts as I got it set up. I could use just the word blog, and that would work just as well. But if I added the word blog to, say, one of my pages, then it's going to affect that as well. So that's why I made this a bit longer. And here's another tip as well. If you want it to, all these plugins to be off, like WooCommerce here, in your page builder, then you want to look for the URL in that page builder, because of course this isn't going to work there. It's going to be a different URL. So for mine, that it says Beaver Builder, so I've got FL_builder. That's always going to work for me. I think if your Elementor's got Elementor at the end of it, so as long as you're not using that on another page, you should be able to work with that in the same way. I'm not sure about Brizzy or Oxygen or the other ones out there off the top of my head. So that's pretty much all you need to do here. Let me just show you about turning off in the back end. So I've done this with Usage DD, the plugin that's been giving me the figures here. By default, it should work in the back end as well for me. So I decided to, just for experimenting, I turned it off in the back there. But if you turn in, well, I didn't turn it off, I just unticked always on. And that won't work or do anything unless you put something in here as well. So I've put it as inactive on WP admin here in this case. So it was already going to be inactive, so I'm really just repeating it, but you need to do this to make it work. And, you know, as you can see, it's not here where it should be in the back end, and it won't be on any of the other pages. Just something to note on that, if you do this and you go in to look at your installed plugins on your list there, it's going to show this plugin as deactivated where it actually isn't, because everything's not loading on the back end, of course. So that could be a little confusing. And again, let's have a look at some other plugins here. So Astra Premium Sites here. So I didn't need to do this because it doesn't output anything to the front, but I've left it on in the back end here. I've set it to active, to a page or words that are not going to appear on any of my URLs because I've needed to do that. So it's meaning that all the real pages that are there, it's completely inactive on in the front end. As I say, I didn't need to do it on this plugin because it doesn't output anything to the front anyway, but it's just to give you an idea. Okay, I think I've come to all the tips there. Let me just go and check my blog post to make sure that there's not anything that I've missed out on. I think I've covered it all. There is just one bug that I came across, and I saw this was mentioned in comments and fixed, but I think I had tried to break things, and I was successful in doing that by putting some silly rules in. And it was similar to a problem that was picked up and rectified, I think, before. That when I put everything back and reactivated some of the plugins, it just shifted all of my rules up to the next table, so against the wrong plugin. I don't think it's anything to worry about. I was trying to break things. I've tried to activate and reactivate and uninstall and add in new plugins, and everything seems to have worked fine as it should do with that. So this one bug was literally me trying to wreck things to see how things would happen, and I couldn't recreate it at all, so I don't know what I did. Anyway, I think that's enough for me. Thank you so much for your time. I hope this was useful to you. Again, please, if you did like this, then please give me a thumbs up on YouTube and consider subscribing to this channel. Hope you have a great day, and I hope to talk to you again soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.